Alright, hey, what's up, you guys? Good thing that I didn't test any of the Zoom stuff last week when I had the opportunity to actually see if it would work on y'all's local machines and establish the protocol for how to do it. I'll figure that out tomorrow, but for today I figured I will just do a demo of me doing a routing lab. It won't be with the Ghibli API, but it'll be with a test API I found online, but a lot of the concepts will still translate over pretty easily, hopefully. So let's go ahead and start diving in. I'm just going to use create React app as you guys have been using to create my React project for me. This actually builds a lot of stuff under the hood for you guys that you will eventually learn how to do yourself. Or at least almost yourself. There's still a lot of complicated stuff that has to happen with React. Because remember, React is really new. You guys writing in JSX code is not natively read by the browser. It has to be bundled up and translated into something your browser can read. So that's what all these tools under the hood are doing for you guys, as well as providing like hot reloading. So when you type some JSX, it updates automatically on the page and stuff like that. You will learn to miss these things once you have to start coding out your own projects and no longer use Create React App to start them. So we're just going to hop on in and open up our code editor here. And as always, I like starting fresh, so we're going to delete all this garbage real quick. Just so we can build something from scratch in Create React App. Cool, that about does it. So the first thing we're going to need is our index HTML that gets sent to our browser. I'm going to use the exclamation point there. React routing. We're going to need some kind of div for our stuff to get identified and rendered into with an app.js of some kind, or like a bundle.js technically. And we have to just give it some kind of ID. I think they do root by default, but we're just going to call this LMAO or something like that. There we go. Real crazy. And because I love using Bootstrap, I refuse to touch this project until we do so. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up Google and find it here. I'm going to need this style sheet here. Let's pop that sucker in. And we're going to need all these scripts as well. There we go. That should take care of that. And these scripts, don't forget, need to be at the bottom of your body for use. There we go. A little auto format. That should be all we need here. So moving on, we're going to our source folder and need our entry point, which is an index.js. And to actually use React to JSX, we're going to have to import React from, you guessed it, React. We're going to bring in React DOM from React DOM. So now we can actually use JSX components with this guy, like app in brackets, and we can actually use the React DOM to render an app into the DOM for us, right? So we use React DOM dot render, and render will take an app we haven't made yet, and we have to use some DOM document dot get element by ID. I called it LMAO. Cool. That's it. Now we don't have an app yet, so this is a quick test to make sure I haven't messed anything up. We're going to do something really simple. Because don't forget, a React component is nothing more than a JavaScript function that returns some amount of JSX. That doesn't really matter how much it is. So we're going to test it first with hello. Oh my god, I just hit the wrong button. And I closed the code editor. I don't know how I managed to hit that hotkey. Thankfully I have autosave turned on. Hello world. Not really sure how I managed to hit Control Q in that mess, but c'est la vie, I suppose. Cool. I think that's a pretty good starting point for testing. So we're going to run npm run start. Let this guy get going. With any luck. Starting dev server. I'll have to move this over here. There we go. And we should say a lovely hello world pop up here in just a moment. Start the development server. I'll move that out of the way. And we'll give it a second. There we go. All right, we are up and running with our most bare bones possible application. So you guys know we normally don't do this here. So we're going to remove that, and we're going to go ahead and wire up an import for our app, which I'm going to create a directory called components and have my app.jsx inside of it. So we are dunskies there. Now I'm in a new file. Nope, JK. We're going to make a new folder called components. Inside of components, we'll have an app.jsx, and again, we'll need React from React in order to actually use JSX. And I'm just going to paste my app in here. I'm going to export default app so I can use it across my application. And now theoretically this should now be correctly all wired up again, and we should be good to go. So let's check it out. Failed to compile, can't resolve components app / components app in React routing source. This directory / components / app, right? What have I done messed up? Components, app. If I try restarting it, I'm gonna laugh if I'm missing something incredibly obvious here. So I'm restarting the development server. Sometimes it doesn't like it when you do, sometimes if you change like your structure of your program, of your React app, especially like adding new directories and stuff like that, it can't resolve those until you rebuild the app with another npm start. So that's what happened there. I was like, I'm pretty sure I got everything right. And just to show, we are indeed back to saying hello world by exporting an app out for us. So it's about at this stage in the game, I would probably already go ahead and consider running some kind of organization in my application here. And like I showed you guys, I believe Friday, how you typically organize your app.jsx as like your root level application where it has your navbar, your footer, your body, things like that. Same thing's going to happen in React Router. We don't have access to it yet. It is actually an npm package we're going to have to install. And to do that, we type in npm install -- save, and we type in the name of the package we're installing, which I think was React Router -dom. There we go. It is installing this package for us. The -- save means it adds it to this list of dependencies up here in our package JSON. That way, if you guys push these to GitHub and I had to help you figure out something wrong in your code, I can clone this down, run in my own npm install on the code, and then that package JSON will inform my computer what it needs to install for this application to run. So up until now, an npm install and an npm run start would be all you need. But now that we're using a third-party package, I'm going to have to run npm install. It'll have to do React DOM, all the under the hood stuff, and it's also going to have to reach out and get React Router DOM installed for us. And I'm not sure why my computer, or my internet rather, is being so insanely slow at the moment, but normally this package takes a few minutes to install, and it's taking it a good bit today to download and get into place here. But this will give us access to all the stuff that you see in the lecture videos, right, of our browser router that we renamed to router, our link tags, and our switch statement, and our route elements, right? So here we go. Giving this a minute. While this installs, actually, I can go ahead and start coding out some of what needs to happen. So for example, we're going to leave this as a functional component for now. I don't think it's going to have any kind of interaction with a constructor or state, so I'm not going to upgrade this guy to a class component at all. But I do know that once this is done installing, we're going to need to go ahead and import a number of things from the React Router DOM package once this sucker finishes installing. And again, like, what you guys imported before, like import React from React, that gives you guys access to React.component and React.fragment and things like that. This is just like a general bring in all like imports, kind of like how we do here. We say import app from components app. It brings in just this guy, this function. But you can actually have multiple functions in one setting if you want, and you can actually import independent ones if you wanted to. Since React Router DOM installed properly, I can see some stuff here, and I believe we actually have it installed, right? It looks like we do. Sorry, I was hoping it'd tell me the definition of where React Router is installed, but it didn't. But nevertheless, we can confirm here in our package JSON, React Router DOM is installed, and it's now ready for use. So that right click didn't help me, so I'm going to get rid of all that. There we go. Now that's collapsed and we're good to go. We're going to start working our way through this. We're going to say import browser router. And as you saw in the videos, we actually bring this as router. This is called using an alias, meaning you can write browser router, that's fine, which gets kind of cumbersome if you have to write it a lot. So we just give it the alias called router just to make it easier to import and use throughout our application. We're going to need our switch, and we'll need a route. As you can see, this guy already knows that these things are legit exports from React Router DOM, and we can import them individually as needed here, which is really cool. So let's go ahead and begin messing with this. So browser router, aka router in our case, right here, that has to be our wrapper for our entire application. So meaning it essentially has to be wrapping this guy, or it has to be the most parent level element returned from our app, which is why our entry point of app.jsx, everything's going to happen now inside of this router tag. Everything. It has to. Otherwise, our routes won't work correctly, and our links won't work correctly because it won't have history of what's happening behind the scenes with the router doing the work for us. So that's why we have to have it as our most parent level element. So that's why inside my app.jsx, the first and only thing it's going to return is going to be our router, and that's it, right? So the next part of the router is our switch statement. And again, when I described last week, when it's like an old operator doing some stuff for us, like an old telephone operator connecting some people's phone lines together, that's what the switch statement is doing here. We define what those lines are and how they're connected. So at its most simplest, we write a route, which is a self-closing tag inside of our switch. And a route has a couple things on it. It has, at its most simple, a path that we define. So this is where we define what the path is going to be, right? We currently are going to be making these up ourselves, and then we're going to be making things up that make sense. So typically the one you start off with the most is just your slash. That's your home path or your root path. And the second most important thing for any route is also a component that it's supposed to be displaying. So we haven't made one of those yet, so let's go ahead and make one. We're going to call it home.jsx or something like that. And home.jsx will be nothing more than a quick little component here. At the moment, it's not going to take any props, or we'll go ahead and just build it with props because we'll probably need them eventually. Right. Dope. It returns any amount of JSX, and I'm going to go ahead and export this guy for use. And my favorite test, as you can probably tell already, is just saying hello from the component's name as a quick little test to make sure I got this guy wired up correctly. So the component that's going to load is going to be called home right there. Nope, not like that. That's IntelliSense messing me up there. There we go. So we're going to import home component from this directory /home, like so. And again, at its simplest, this should be all we need. So I'm going to go ahead and run npm start in my terminal, which is now my left monitor here. So you guys won't be seeing it run, but it should go ahead and open a new localhost. And unless I've messed something up again and I'm wondering why everything's running so slow still, probably because I'm recording. Here we go. Hello from home. It has successfully gone to this home/route and gotten home. Right? So if I changed this to the word /home, now we'd have to go to localhost 3000/home in order to see that component. So as you can see, it's now disappeared. It no longer says hello from home because we're at this route and no longer at our new programmed one, which is /home. So if I change this up here in our browser to /home now, it renders the correct component. And this is where programming your routes is going to be fun to figure out. They work from the top down. So meaning if I have my home component route here, anything below this will match to this guy first. So as an example, and what I mean by that is like this, Control-C, Control-V, and we'll call this not home. Clever, right? What you'll notice here is that when this thing runs its... I have to make home, actually, now that I think about it. So I'm just going to copy and paste this just as a quick, not home.jsx. Not necessary, but I'm going to do it anyway. There we go. Hello from not home. This way we'll just have something to wire up so I can show you the example of it working and not working as expected. Cool. Yes, you can. No, you can't, evidently. Not home is not defined because I created it and didn't import it. I told y'all, nothing ever works the first time as expected. So the key is you don't panic. You just go ahead and read the error, figure out what it's doing, figure out what you just did that might have not worked, and go from there. Hello from home. Cool. So you'd expect now that if we typed in /not_home, it would actually render the not home component, which says hello from not home. But let's investigate what happens here real quick. It still says hello from home. Peculiar. So when I said earlier that this thing works top down, that's exactly what happened, and hopefully it's beginning to make more sense. So I typed in the route /not_home. And as you can see, since it works from the top down, it got to this far and saw the slash in my /not_home, matched it, and stopped there and said, oh, okay, I have a match at the slash, therefore I have to load the home component. That's not what we want it to do. So there's two ways of solving this. We can move this below not home, meaning when it's trying to match a route that we're typing into our browser, it'll go /not_home, and that'll match first, otherwise it'll go down to the slash. So now let's check it out. Now it's working as expected, and if we go down to just slash, it does say hello from home. So that's one way of handling that issue. Another way, and I see what most students end up doing, is they use a little trick. So let's confirm again. It is now working the other way around, where even if we type in /not_home, yeah, not home, it still renders the home component, which is incorrect. That's not the right path name, so something's still not happening. And because it matches from the top down, it got to the slash and stopped, just like I demoed. There's actually another attribute on the route that you can put on here called exact. And exact is a Boolean that by default is false. So if we type in the word exact, if I learn how to spell, there we go. If I type in the word exact like so, it will now say this has to match exactly with no trailing text. So now if we go back to our page, we're still going to be on not home, and that should actually say now welcome from not home. There we go. Hello from not home, not welcome. Hello from not home. Cool. So now if we go back to our original slash, because it's an exact match, that one works. And now our not home is no longer an exact match for just slash. It doesn't match that, stop, and decide it's done. It has to exactly match the home route. So that's one easy caveat for you guys to fall into when you're figuring out why your routes aren't working. So always come in here and check to see if maybe it's matching incorrectly and rendering the wrong component. And what I see most students end up doing is they just write exact path on every single route they do. You don't need to do that, and at y'all skill level, the efficiency won't really matter, but it's something to keep in mind while you guys are programming your routes. So at its simplest, that is our React router. I didn't code anything that you guys haven't seen here, just making an entry point for our app. I made our app no longer just have our code in it. It's going to act as our kind of, what's it called? Our overall planning for what our web app layout is supposed to be. So if I wanted, I could have this switch acts as our body, essentially, right? And we could have a nav bar above the switch, and we can have a footer below the switch, which I will demo here really quickly, and I'll go into another video of what happens after that, of what we're going to need to start worrying about and what we need to do. So I'm going to the Bootstrap site real quick. I'm going to pull a nav bar. I'm going to pick out the simplest possible nav bar they have as a demo here. Copy, dope. And let's actually make it into its own component called navbar.jsx. It's going to need to be an import React from React. It's going to be a JavaScript function called navbar. That might take some props at some point, doesn't really matter for this stage in the game. It's going to return some JSX, and it's going to say hello from navbar, just to demo where it appears in our app workflow. Export default navbar, that way is it accessible anywhere else across our application. We're going to go ahead and bring it here. There's no reason I'm actually choosing to import it above home. It's just the way I have my mind is laid out. The nav bar will be technically above home anyway, so that's where I'm importing it. So we can't directly just do this quite yet, like so. Importing navbar, put it above the switch inside of our router, like so, and it should give us an error. Right. So a router may have only one child element, and that's when I was saying that a router has to be the parent most level thing inside of our app. And it also can only, it's kind of like a render return in a class component, or any functional React component. It has to return one element in the router. So we can't do a navbar and a switch because they're now sibling elements, right? They're next to each other. They have to be children of router and not siblings. So what we can do is just wrap these guys in a react.fragment, and this should fix the issue. Cool. So now with this layout, I'm going to add some spaces to make it a bit easier to understand what I'm getting at here. Is navbar and switch are still in the same place together. They are siblings, but now they're wrapped inside this React fragment, and the React fragment is now the one child being returned with the router, and therefore our code should now function properly. And because I put navbar above the switch, it appears above the switch. And as you can imagine, if I cut that guy out and put it below the switch, let's say it was a footer and not a navbar, it goes below our components. So as you can kind of get your bearings on it, this is what's happening with the app.jsx now. It is like your master blueprint, your layout for what your website should look like. You might have a navbar up here that navigates around. Depending on what route you're on, it might render a body component of some kind, and below that you might have your footer saying, thanks for checking out my site, or something like that. Without letting this video drone on too long, I'm going to go ahead and pause it here and begin uploading to a playlist. I'm going to go ahead and record the next part where I begin styling the navbar a little bit, and I start using that demo API to finish this lab with us together while I explain what's going on. Cool. I'll see you in the next video.